Every top 5 league has had a Champions League winner. However, no manager has ever won it in all of these leagues. So today I'll be suiting up and taking a team from each top 5 league to the Champions League title. And of course, the question is which top 5 league we should start at. Well, I think I want to go to the league that's had the longest drought from winning the Champions League, and that is the Serie A. And the Serie A has lots of great teams like AC Milan, who have actually won the most Champions Leagues in Italy. Or maybe even make Sassuolo into superstars and win the first Champions League. However, I do not think that's the route, as we only have 15 seasons to win 5 different UCLs. And I do aim to stay at each club for 3 seasons, because the longer we take at one specific club, the shorter we have at every other club. And the team I've decided to go for is actually Inter Milan. And as I become the Inter Milan manager, this is the squad I will be inheriting and trying to win the Champions League, hopefully in 3 seasons. However, when it came to the transfer window, I don't think Milan had a good window. They did make some exciting young signings like Luis Enrique, Boni, and of course Peter Sucic. But the only world-class player they really brought in was Manuel Kanji on loan from City. And I'm not gonna lie, we are never winning the UCL playing at 5 in the back. Inter Milan have a lot of problems we need to solve. However, before I solve those problems, it's very important we do a good job at Inter Milan and the next 3 clubs, because our final club, we're gonna have to take over a team that has never won the Champions League. So hopefully we can prepare for that moment. However, the great news is we do have 84 million to go ahead and solve the problems that Inter Milan do have. So I've decided to change the formation to a 3-5-2, where Di Marco will be playing left mid but come back on defense. However, the right hand side will be an inside forward, which means we will have 4 attackers and 4 defenders with 2 midfielders. And that leads us straight away with the 3 problems I believe Inter Milan have. The first one being an incredible center attacking midfielder who can threaten those through balls and also score a bunch of goals. The second problem being a younger and faster center back, as Acerbi has an embarrassing 60 pace. And the final problem Inter Milan have is definitely a right midfielder who can score goals. We do have Luis Enrique, but if we want to win the UCL as soon as possible, we need somebody that's already world class. However, I was able to get rid of a lot of deadwood, and we now have 130 million to sign the 3 positions that we do need. And boys, I think the most important signing is going to be that center attacking midfielder, and I have found 3 perfect options. We have Arda Güler, Bruno Fernandes, and Paulo Dybala. Arda Güler is more of a young option, and he's deadly on set pieces, and I know he can feed Lautaro and Thuram like crazy. However, he just doesn't compare to Bruno and Paulo Dybala. I'm just not sure who I should go with. So because I couldn't decide, first of all, I went ahead and signed the center back and right mid in Murillo from Nottingham Forest for 34 million plus Denzel Dumfries. And for another 34 million, we have signed Ferran Torres from Barca. And with 80 pace, Murillo was the perfect center back. While Ferran Torres may only have 80 shooting, but the fact that he used to play at striker means he will score a lot of goals. So of course, that leaves us with our final signing being the cam. However, we only have 53 million left, so automatically Arda Güler is way too expensive, so he will not be the option. But don't you worry, he's one of my favorite players, and at one of my future clubs, I will bring him in. So that leaves us with Paulo Dybala and Bruno Fernandes. Who should I go for, man? And my decision has been made. For 42.5 million, I am bringing in Bruno Fernandes, because convincing Roma to sell Dybala was going to be difficult, and Bruno Fernandes carried a whole team, so I think he can help us win the Champions League. And just take a look at this brand new team. It's definitely improved from the last one. I believe we can win the Champions League as early as this season. And sadly, in the group stages, we finished in 5th place, as in the round of 16, we'll be facing Liverpool. And boys, this is gonna be difficult. They are the favorites with the likes of Alexander Isak and Ekitike. But can we go ahead and win this first leg? It's a 1-0 loss. We have to come back in the second. However, before the second leg, Çalhanoğlu has been injured, lowering our chances of winning the Champions League. But obviously, we need to come back in the second leg. The question is, who should we bring in? And I think there's only one option, and it's Davide Fratesi. But he does go down a -3 in that CDM position. I hope it doesn't affect us. But the question is, can we pull off a remontada even without Çalhanoğlu and go to the quarterfinals? And it's a 2-0 victory, as Lautaro gets a double and sends us to the quarters. However, in the quarterfinals, we actually beat Madrid in both legs to get to the semis, where we lost the first leg to Atletico, but came back in the second leg, and we were now in the Champions League final against Man City. We have the chance to win our first Champions League in our first league in our first ever season. And huge shout-outs have to go to Lautaro Martinez and Bruno Fernandes, getting 30 goals each. But not only them, as Marcus Thuram and Boni also did their part left. And as we won the Serie A and the Italian Super Cup, this team is looking absolutely incredible with all the growth that has occurred. But the question is, can we finish the job? This time last year, Inter got spanked in the final by PSG, and it's a 3-1 loss. With Bruno scoring our only goal, but we failed to win our first Champions League. And we do now have 14 seasons left to win it with 5 different clubs. And kicking off season 2, there is some terrible news, as our captain Lautaro Martinez was in my office and explained that it's time for him to go as he wants to win the Champions League. And if we would have won it last year, he would have stayed, but now doesn't believe he can do it here at Inter. So of course, I've transfer listed Lautaro, and now we have a huge gap in that striker position. And as we wait for offers for Lautaro Martinez, I quickly came up with a 3-man shortlist of perfect replacements to help us win that Champions League. And those options are Victor Boniface, Julian Alvarez, and Victor Osimhen. 3 strikers that have scored a lot of goals, won league titles, but only one of them has won the Champions League. But I'm still not sure who we should go for. However, we were able to sell Lautaro Martinez for 100 million to FC Barcelona, which gives us 200 million to sign a replacement and solve some other issues within the side. And of course, one of those issues is a striker position. However, Manuel Akanji went back to Man City and I was not going to sign him. So we need another center back. And the final problem is Çalhanoğlu, who's 32, and it's going to start going down this season. However, the good thing is that is an easy solution, as Davide Fratesi will be starting this season. And as I gave him a CDM development plan, surely that will be the solution to that problem. But of course, it was time to decide what striker we should bring in. First of all, Victor Boniface is not yet the finished article, and that's what we need, a player in their prime. And as great as Julian Alvarez, he is 1 year younger than Victor Osimhen, and I believe we could use him at a future club, maybe at the club that's never won the Champions League. So for 108 million, we're bringing back Victor Osimhen to the Serie A and hopes he could be the perfect replacement for Lautaro. But of course, we also needed a center back, so for 60 million, I am bringing in Christian Romero from Tottenham Hotspur already at an 85 overall, solving all of the issues Inter have had this season. So this is what the brand new side is looking like, as Bastoni is our new captain. I really do hope we can win the Champions League this time. I'm just worried about Ferran Torres not growing enough last season. But it got even worse in the group stages when we finished in 12, and in the playoff, we do have Lech Poznan. But it's okay, as we breezed past Lech Poznan, came back against Borussia Dortmund, and even beat PSG over 2 legs. However, in the first leg against City in the semis, we lost 3-1. And boys, if we don't pull off the remontada, that will be another season of not winning the Champions League, giving us less time at every other club. But come on, everyone could do a remontada except the Real Madrid, and it's a 4-0 victory, as Thuram, Boni, Carboni, and Ferran take us to the UCL final again. As in the Champions League final, we're facing the Bottle Jobs Arsenal. And as we have the chance to win our first Champions League, it was an absolute carry job, 64 goals from Osimhen, as the person who came second was Thuram with 16. But to be honest, I'm very satisfied with how everybody performed this season. But the question is, can we do it? Can we win our first Champions League to move on to the next league? And it's a 1-1 draw, but we win on penalties, as we win our first Champions League a season earlier. Who knows what offers we will get for every other league. And now it's season number 3. Up next, we're actually going to the Bundesliga, and I have received 3 different managerial offers from Germany. The first one being Bayer Leverkusen, who have never won the Champions League but did reach a final where Zidane scored that screamer. The second offer that's come in is RB Leipzig. They are a very good club with a lot of money, but they have never won the Champions League, so I'm not sure if that's where I want to go. And the final offer I've received is for Borussia Dortmund, who have won the Champions League before, but it's been a long time and recently lost 2 finals, one to Bayern and one to Real Madrid. So the question is, what club should I go to? And my decision has been made, as I'm joining Borussia Dortmund, just like Inter Milan, to take them back to glory. However, just take a look at this team. They're nowhere near winning the Champions League. And first of all, let's start by fixing this formation. And I think here at Dortmund, I'm going for a 4-3-3 attack, as it accommodates for the 2 good fullbacks we already have. But of course, there are plenty of issues in this side. But with only 64 million to spend, we cannot solve every single problem. But one problem we definitely need to solve is that center back position, as well as that left winger position, as we do not have a single good left winger. Well, hopefully, while the rest of the team like Chukwuemeka and Bellingham could all improve, and we don't have to solve those issues in the future. However, one last issue I can see coming is Gurasi. He is absolutely incredible, but at 31 years old, if we don't win the UCL right away, we're gonna have to sign another striker. However, just like at Inter Milan, I was able to sell a bunch of players to gain more money, as we now have 100 150 million to spend on our problems. So I've gone ahead and made a 4-man shortlist of players that I would like. The only center back I threw in here is Jan Bisek, who's 6'5", and obviously did not get a lot of game time when we were Inter Milan manager. But winning the UCL with Dortmund might take a while, and he is young. I might have to sign him. However, the tougher decision is that left wing spot. There is Ferran Torres, who is the finished article and might succeed better as an out-and-out winger. There is also Luis Enrique, like Bisek, did not get a lot of game time, but has a lot of potential. And the final player here is Kenan Yildiz, who just like Joe Bellingham and Carney Chukwuemeka can grow and become a world-class player here at Dortmund. So for 28 million, I went for Bisek to give him a chance here in this Dortmund side. And for 40 million, I went ahead and signed Kenan Yildiz as a left winger. And now this is what the squad is looking like. It was minor improvements, but I know in a couple seasons time, we'll be winning the Champions League with Dortmund. And it turns out Dortmund were in the Europa League, which we did win. But of course, no Champions League. However, we also finished at second place and won the DFB Pokal. We are heading the right direction. And Gurasi had an incredible season with 48 goals, but Yildiz, Adeyemi, and even Maximilian Bayer all did well. And this is exactly what I was expecting. So much growth in the side. Yildiz is now at an 85, while Chukwuemeka and Bellingham are now 81s, while Bisek went up a +2, and even Reece James will now be benched as Jan Couto has passed them in overall. And to kick off season number 4, there was some terrible news. Kobo comes into my office and says, I have been poached by Bayern Munich, and I'm sorry, same old story, I will be going to Bayern. So there we go. As per usual, the best Dortmund players go to Bayern Munich as it leaves for 80 million. As of course, we now have 150 million to spend, but we have a huge hole in that goalkeeper position because I believe he carried us to second place. But in terms of other signings, I think we need another center back to compete with Schlotterbeck and Bisek, as well as another attacking mid to compete with Chukwuemeka. And surely with those 150 million, we could sign some amazing players. So the first signing I made for 47 million was Mohamed Simikan from Al Nassr. And for the center attacking mid position, I was gonna get Arda Güler, but he rejected a contract to join Dortmund. So instead, for 37 million, I brought in Nipan, the Norwegian center attacking mid. And as the new signings join the side, we have 50 million left to spend on a starting goalkeeper. And quickly, I did find 3 amazing options. First of all, an Andrew Lunin, who's now playing at Leverkusen. He is over the price range, but maybe with a swap deal, we could get him in. There's also Alex Mary, who is now playing at Chelsea, and for a very cheap 29 to 37 million, he would be an incredible signing. However, he is 31 years old. And the final option I do have is actually James Trafford from Man City. He is within the price range, only at an 81. However, with Gianluigi Donnarumma also being at that side, this guy is not getting any game time. So for 46 million, I decided to bring in James Trafford, as he is the only goalkeeper not getting any game time at his club. And I think he will be hungry and ready to help us win the Champions League one day. But subscribe and let me know down below if I made the right decision. And now that Trafford is the starting keeper, yes, it's a huge downgrade, but I'm hoping that in 1 or 2 seasons time, this team will be the best in Germany and we can compete for that Champions League. However, our first year in the UCL did not go well as we finished in 12th place, but we did win over 2 legs over Bilbao in the playoffs, but lost in the first leg to Arsenal in the round of 16. And if we do not have a remontada, that means we will have 11 seasons left to win the next 4 Champions Leagues. And I just do not want to take forever here at Dortmund, and it's a 3-0 loss as Gyökeres gets a double to knock us out. And this time around, Gurasi has a slower season with 24 goals. Adeyemi and Yildiz continue to go strong, while the rest of the side was a little bit slower. But the great news is the squad continues to grow. Yildiz is now at an 87, while Carney and Bellingham are both at an 83. However, bad news for Carney Chukwuemeka, as Niapan has gone all the way to an 83, and they will be competing for the starting spot next season. And we do win our first Bundesliga title, which means we're in the Champions League once again. But like I mentioned, we have 11 seasons left. And now in season 5, we're in our 3rd season at Dortmund. And remember, ideally, I would like to win the Champions League by the 3rd season at every club. But it's not looking like we're going to win it this season. And remember, the last job is going to be a team that's never won the Champions League. So who knows how long that one will take. But in terms, our squad is actually looking pretty incredible. I don't really want to sign anybody as long as we don't lose anybody. However, I want to go ahead and take a risk here and actually bench Gurasi from Maximilian Bayer, who can play up top. Because if we do not win the Champions League this season, Borussia will go down, and I want to prioritize Bayer going up in overall. So let's go ahead and convert Bayer into a striker and hope maybe we can have a surprise run at the Champions League. However, in the group, we did worse by finishing in 17th. But thankfully, in the playoffs, we got past Inter Milan, came back against Liverpool, and even beat Atletico Madrid over 2 legs and have won the first leg against Chelsea in the semis. And all we have to do is beat Chelsea Football Club and we'll be in the UCL final once again, but it's a 3-0 loss as Palmer and Mbappe knock us out, man. We were this close. Now at the end of the season, I made the right decision. 50 goals from Maximilian Bayer, while Juris and even Gurasi still have great seasons. And I can't lie, if you look at this team could have won the Champions League. And as we once again win the Bundesliga, we're going into our 4th season and only have 10 seasons left to win 4 more Champions Leagues. And in season number 6, things have gotten complicated as our captain Nico Schlotterbeck came into my office and has told me that Bayern has come in for him and he would like to leave, but he understands if I reject it as we're trying to win the Champions League. And boys, I'm gonna be honest, this is a tough decision. Schlotterbeck is our captain. However, in my books, if a player wants to leave, I should grant him that wish. So for 70 million, Schlotterbeck has gone to Bayern Munich as we now have 150 mil, but a center back gap to fill in order to try and win the Champions League this season. However, there is only one player I trust that will not leave if I sign him, and that is Alessandro Bastoni. He's one of the reasons we won the UCL at Inter. So for 70 million, I brought Bastoni to the Bundesliga because I plan to leave Borussia Dortmund by the end of the season. So now that Bastoni is a Dortmund player and our new captain, let's win the Champions League. But things look good this time as we finished in 7th place. As I sim to the final, let's see if we made it. In the round of 16, we beat Man City. In the quarters, we beat PSG. And in the semis, we beat Atletico, which means we're facing Liverpool in a Jurgen Klopp derby. And Bayer was absolutely incredible with 45 goals, but Gurasi, Adeyemi, Yildiz, Fabio Silva, and Dementia all getting plus 10 goals. And shout out to Joe Bellingham for the 22 assists he did get. And this could be our final lineup with Dortmund. But remember, we did lose a final with Inter Milan, and it could happen again. As Yildiz is now at an 89, Joe Bellingham now at an 88, and Neopan was our new starter, but he is suspended, which means we have to trust Chukwuemeka to do well. But can we go ahead and win our 2nd Champions League in our 2nd league in the Bundesliga? And it's a 3-2 victory as Bayer, Gurasi, and Cucurella get us that victory, getting our 2nd UCL and our 2nd league. As we now have 9 seasons left to go to win it with 3 more teams, with the last one never winning a Champions League. And to begin season number 7, I find out that the next league is the Ligue 1. And boys, this is going to be the most difficult one yet, as only 2 teams have ever won it, and PSG and Olympique Marseille. And I only did receive 1 offer, and that is from Olympique de Marseille. They have not won the UCL in decades. And as I become the Olympique Marseille manager, this is the team that we're stuck with Johan Bunny, who used to be with us at Inter, is now at the club. However, this squad is an absolute shambles, nowhere near winning a Champions League, as the 3 key problems are very clear: the 2 center back positions, as well as the right midfielder. However, with only 52 million to spend, we're probably only gonna be able to solve 1 at a time. Thankfully, we did have some deadwood, which I did go ahead and sell, which gives us 110 million to potentially make 2 or even all 3 of those signings. And I was able to solve all 3 problems. As for 20 million, I brought in Luis Enrique, who was still at Inter Milan. For 54.5 million, I brought in Kuzanov from Man City, who is incredible. And I only had 30 million left, so I brought in Mohamed Simakan from Borussia Dortmund. But don't worry, hopefully next season, we can bring in a brand new and younger center back. So this is what the brand new side is looking like. And it turns out Marseille were not in the Champions League at all. But thankfully, I got them to 2nd place and are now back in the UCL next season. And there wasn't many goal scorers, as Johan Bunny was our top goal scorer, but Kamara and Fruk also got 10 plus goals. I hope these numbers can improve starting next season. But the great thing is, this squad has grown quite nicely, with everybody in our front 4 above an 83. Kuzanov has hit an 86, with our weak spots now being the fullbacks, as we need to replace them next season, as we only have 7 seasons to go to win 3 Champions Leagues. And to begin season number 8, we do have 80 million. And I mentioned we need brand new fullbacks. And I think the players I'm going to go for is Rico Lewis from Atletico and Milos Kerkez, who is playing at Inter Milan. So for 40 million each, I brought in Rico Lewis and Milos Kerkez to Olympique de Marseille. And now this lineup is looking absolutely incredible. I think we can get far in the Champions League. And in the group stage, things did not go well as we finished in 18th. However, in the first leg against Milan in the playoffs, we won 2-1. Let me tell you, I do not want to get knocked out as early as in the playoffs. Let's finish off this victory, and it's a 3-0 loss. As Mainu and Garcia knock us out, man. We will not be winning the Champions League this season, as we're only gonna have 7 seasons left. But the good thing is Yohan Boni was a top goal scorer with 25, as Lamine Camara has been doing incredible as our captain. And the rest of the players had decent numbers, but I think what we're lacking is a superstar. So I hope next season we can get one, as we achieve another second place finish and win the Coupe de France. And in season 9, we do have 150 million to spend, and I've shortlisted 2 amazing players. The first one being goalkeeper Restes, who is now at an 88 and is under 100 million. And the superstar I was talking about, Julian Alvarez, at a 90 overall, but at 33 years old. In that cam position, I think he'd be brilliant and can help us bring the Champions League home. So for 100 million, I brought in Restes, while for 44 million, I have brought in Julian Alvarez. And realistically, there is nothing stopping this team from winning the Champions League to move on to the next league to win my 4th Champions League. This time around, we did finish in 5th place, but also beat Man United in the round of 16, our old club Borussia Dortmund in the quarterfinals, and even breezed past Liverpool over 2 legs, and we were now in the Champions League final. And what a signing Julian was. 37 goals and 11 assists as Boni continues to perform. Camaro, Gebo, Wurmbrand, and Baranexta also playing well. And this could possibly be our final team here at Marseille, as we might win the Champions League with this Liga side. But can we go ahead and do it? Win our 3rd Champions League in our 3rd top 5 league, and it's a 2-0 victory, with Wurmbrand and Julian scoring the winner as we get our 3rd Champions League. As we now have 6 seasons left to win 2 Champions League, 1 in La Liga and 1 in the Prem. And one of those 2 clubs will be a team that's never won the Champions League. And in season number 10, the next league is actually La Liga, and we received 2 offers, and they are the El Clasico rivals and Real Madrid and FC Barcelona. But at this point, who is better? So as I decided to join FC Barcelona, I was correct, as Yamal is still at the club. And I can't lie, this team is looking absolutely incredible. The only problem they have is having a great number 9. And with 150 million left to spend, if we could sign a superstar striker, we could win the Champions League in this first season. And I think I found the perfect player in Chido Obi, who is now at an 86 overall at just 26 years old. He could be the one to win us that UCL. So for 80 million, we are signing the ex-Man United player and now Danish superstar. And now with Chido Obi in the side, this team is a UCL winning side. And in our first season, we finished in 7th place, while our old club Marseille is in 1st. However, I did sim to the end. Did we reach the UCL final? And in the round of 16, we beat Olympique Lyon. In the quarterfinals, we beat Chelsea. And in the semifinals, we beat Tottenham, which means in the final, we're facing our old club, Marseille. And who else but Yamal to be our best player with 49 and 10? But Chido Obi was a brilliant signing, while Ngumoa, Bernal, Danny Rodriguez, and Torre also did incredible. And no, there is bad news. Pedri will be suspended for the final. This is not good. Pablo Torre will be taking his place as we have the chance to win the Champions League with Barca in our first ever season here. And if we can beat Marseille tonight, we can go to the final team in the Prem, team that's never won the Champions League, to complete our challenge. But can we get our 4th UCL? And it's a 3-1 loss, as our own team denies us our 4th Champions League, as we only have 5 seasons left to win the last 2 UCLs. And it's season number 11. There's not much we can do to improve this side. I just think we got unlucky last season. Let's maintain this team and try to get to the UCL final once again. And getting to the final started off well, as we finished in 1st place. And we dominated the knockouts, beating the likes of AC Milan, Chelsea, and Man City in order to face a final against Liverpool. And it's another brilliant season for Yamal with 57 and 10, while Chido Obi was a 2nd top goal scorer, and Pedri, Ngumoa, and Bernal. And Pedri, Ngumoa, and even Bernal with 32 assists were incredible. And I can't lie, this is the best team we have built so far, and I've only made 1 transfer. We have to win this Champions League. But the question is, can we go ahead and beat Liverpool and go to our last job of our career? It's a 3-1 win as Borussia and Yamal get a double to win our 4th Champions League and our 4th league. But of course, now it's time to go to the Premier League, to a team that's never won the UCL. And in season number 12, the club I will be joining is Arsenal FC, as they have never won the Champions League. But this is what the squad is looking like, and it's looking pretty good. They actually do have 2 of my ex-players in Fratesi, as well as Yohan Boni. And to be honest, there's only 2 weak spots in this entire side, and that is the left center back position, as well as a world-class center attacking mid. And with 165 million, I should be able to sign those 2 players. So for 70 million, I'm signing a 90 rated Dean Huijsen from Madrid. And for 80 million, I'm finally signing a 90 rated Arda Güler, who I've been wanting to sign since I was at Inter Milan. And now taking a look at this side, there is no chance we can't win Arsenal their first ever Champions League. And in the group stage, we finished in 2nd place, only behind Barcelona. But did we make the final? In the round of 16, we did smash Frankfurt. In the quarterfinals, we beat Juventus. And in the semis, we beat AS Roma. So that means in the final, we face our old club, FC Barcelona. And Max Dowman was our best player with 35 goals and 17 assists, while Fisher, Goulet, and Boni all had incredible seasons. And even Ethan Nwaneri, who's playing out of position, did well. And boys, what a journey it has been. This could be the final squad, as if we beat Barca tonight, we would have won 5 Champions Leagues in 5 different leagues. But can we do it one last time, win it with Arsenal, their first ever Champions League? And it's a 5-3 victory, as these were our goal scorers, as I won 5 UCLs in the top 5 leagues, becoming the greatest manager of all time. And if you guys enjoyed this video, click on the screen and watch me take over Newcastle for the next 10 seasons without Isaac.